What's going on, fam? It is time to finish the week strong. For today's warm-up, all you're going to need is a light kettlebell, a yoga block, and a mat. Let's go ahead and dive right in. First thing we're going to do is our 90-90 combo, and this is that movement where the yoga block may come in handy for some of you. So if you find yourself getting set up in the 90-90 position here, remember we want that front knee in line with the hip, back knee in line with the back hip. If you're leaning over towards that lead leg, take that yoga block or whatever bolster you have and set it underneath that front hip. That way you're sitting upright. You'll make this much more enjoyable for you. That being said, let's start out hinging over that front shin here, keeping a nice flat back, feeling the stretch in the outer hip. Some of you might feel it in the inner thigh here. Posture up, rotate over that back leg, sitting that back glute down towards the ground. Again, some of you feel this in the outside of the hip, some of you will feel it up in your groin, and go back to the beginning, leaning forward again. Keeping a nice flat back, feeling that stretch. Posturing up, rotating so your torso, your chest is facing right down that back leg as you sit the back glute down towards the ground. There's two, back forward we go. There's three, keeping a nice flat back, up and over. There's three, leaning back forward again, keeping a nice flat back. There's number four, posturing up, rotating over that back leg, sitting the back glute down. There's number four. Back forward we go. Number five. Up and over. Number five. Now let's go ahead and windshield wiper our knees over to the other side, and that'll set us up in the 90-90 position here. Again, front knee in line with the front hip, back knee in line with the back hip. We should be at 90-degree angles at both knees and hips. Now we're going to posture up, hinge over that lead leg, feeling that stretch in the outer portion of the hip. Keeping a nice flat back, we'll then posture up, rotating over that back leg so our chest is facing right down the knee here. Rocking it forward again, keeping a nice flat back, getting good stretch. Posture up, rotating over that back leg. There's number two. Rocking it forward. Back up and over, looking over that back leg. There's number three. As you're over that back leg, by the way, remember not to lean back and away from the leg here. We want to keep our shoulders stacked over our hips. Back forward we go. There's number four, posturing up, rotating over the back leg. There is number four. One more time, rocking it forward. There's number five, back up and over, and there is number five. Now we're going to go straight into our half Cossack rocks. Remember, for this one here, we're gonna have one knee outside of the hip, other leg's going to be outstretched with the bottom of the foot flat on the ground here. Now from the side view, so you can see, we want a nice flat back with our hands slightly out in front of us here, and we're going to rock our butt back towards our heel, getting a good stretch all through the inner thigh on that outstretched leg. Now let's rock it back forward, and rocking it back again, keeping a nice flat back. As far as you can go while getting a good stretch. There's number two. Rocking it forward. Rocking it back. That's about where I get a good stretch, so I'm going to stop there and rock it back forward again. There's number three. Rocking it forward. Rocking it back. There's number four. Rocking it forward. And rocking it back. There is number five. Let's go ahead and switch sides now. So you're going to take one knee outside the hip. Other leg's going to be outstretched. Want the foot flat on the ground here. Now from the side view, again, make sure you have a nice flat back, and we're going to sit our butt back towards our heel, feeling that stretch all through the inner thigh on that outstretched leg. Remember, we want that foot to be flat on the ground here on that outstretched leg. There is number two. If you were keeping up with me as I was gabbing there, rocking it forward, rocking it back. There is number three, rocking it forward, keeping a nice flat back, rocking it back, sitting that butt back towards the heel. There's number four, rocking it forward, rocking it back. There is number five. Now we are going straight into our half Cossack liftoff. So this is from this same position here. Only adjustment we're going to make for some of you is that we're going to bring this knee in to where it's directly underneath the hip. So if you have it underneath the hip, this is going to make it a little bit easier to lift this straight leg off. If you want to challenge yourself a little more, you can take this knee here and move it outside the hip. We're still in that same flat back position. And what we're going to do is lift this outstretched leg, pressing our hands firmly into the ground, getting some height. There's one. We're going to tap the ground and do 5 reps here. There's two. This is really challenging on the outer hip. There's three. There's 4, getting max height. Some of you might feel some cramping. There's 5, and it's completely normal and okay if you do. Now we're switching sides. Again, some of you will want the knee directly underneath the hip here. Some of you will want the knee outside the hip for a little extra challenge. Whatever works for you, works for me. Let's go ahead and lift that leg up, pressing hands firmly into the ground. There is number 1. Tap the ground, back up we go. There's number 2. Tap. There's number 3. Outer hip should be on fire. Tap in the ground, back up we go. There's number 4. One more time. There is number 5. Now we're going straight into our T-plank rotations for a shoulder warm-up. Now for this, some of you may want to drop your knee down doing this. Totally fine. For our plank setup, all of us are going to start in a good plank position with our wrists underneath the shoulders. We're going to dig our feet into the ground with our feet roughly shoulder width. And if you have problems with your wrists, feel free to make a fist and do it that way. That's totally fine with me. But once we're here, we're going to rotate, and you have 2 options. Either stay on your feet here as you pivot, wanting to stack shoulder over shoulder here in this side plank type position, or you can drop the knee, and that works for me too. If you do drop the knee, we're then going to come back up. Go ahead and do this with me here. Square the shoulders back up to the ground, and you can pivot the other knee down to the ground as you rotate through. Again, we just want to make sure that we have a straight line from our shoulders all the way down to our hips, so we're not sagging at the hips at all here. And we're coming back up and over. That's 1 per side. I'm going to stay up on my feet now. There's 2, switching sides. Rotating through, making sure those hips are staying square. 2, with the shoulders, rotating through. There's number 3. Rotating back through. There's number 3. I have 2 more. 4, make sure those hips aren't sagging. There's number 4. And we have number 5 coming up. And number 5 on this side here. We're now going to stand straight up, and we're going into our quad stretch. So for our quad stretch, we're going to take right ankle in the right hand. We're going to make sure our knees are together. We don't want our knee out to the side here, knees together. Think about gently squeezing that glute, tucking the hips so you get a good stretch here in the quad, and I mean gently when you do that. Go ahead and switch sides. Left ankle in the left hand. Keep those knees together. There's 1, and switch. Here's kind of the side view for you. There's 2, and switch. There is 2. If you need to hang on to something for balance, feel free to do so. There is number 3, and switching again. Number 3. Going back to the original side. Number 4. Switching sides. Number 4. And one more time. Number 5. And switch. Number 5. Now from here, we are going to go straight into our toe touch. So for our toe touch, we want to bend the back leg, straighten the front leg, and notice how I'm pulling my toes up towards my face, keeping a nice flat back as I hinge and reach down towards the foot here. There is number 1. Switching sides, bend the back leg, straighten the front leg, pull those toes up towards the face. A little tighter on this side. There's number 1, and switch. There's number 2. And switch, getting a nice stretch all through the hamstrings, keeping a nice flat back. There's number 2. Switching sides. There's number 3. And switch. There's number 3. Trying to get a little further down each time. Switching sides again. There's number 4. And switch. There's number 4. Switching again. There's number 5. And switch. There is number 5. Now we're going straight into our figure 4s. Again, if you need to hang on to something for balance, feel free to do so. Otherwise, we're jumping straight in, taking the right ankle above the left knee here. Once you're, send the hips down and back, hinge forward at the chest, and maintain a nice flat back, feeling that stretch all through the outer glute here. We'll switch sides, taking left ankle up on right knee, send the hips down and back. There's 1 per side. Now from the side view, right ankle up on left knee, send the hips down and back, keeping that nice flat back. There's number 2. And switch. There's number 2 on this side. Switching sides again. Right ankle up on left knee, send the hips down and back. There's number 3. Switching again. There is number 3. Make sure you're keeping that nice flat back position the whole time. Number 4, switching sides. There's number 4, switching one more time. Number 5, and switching number 5. Now from here, we're gonna go straight into our speed skaters. So for our speed skaters, this isn't going to be a full lunge. We're gonna hover our knee a little bit off the ground, but what we are going to do is take the left foot, step it behind our right lead leg, and as you come down, I want you to notice how my back knee here is slightly outside of my front foot. My knee is just barely off the ground, and then come back up and over, stepping to the other side, threading my right leg behind my left foot here. Again, my knee will be outside of the ankle. So that's 1 per side. We're doing 5 per side here. There's number 2. Number 2, from the side view, I want you to notice that my torso is staying upright here. There's 3 per side. 4. 4, again from the side view. Number 5. And number 5. Now from here, we're going straight into our primer. So for our primer, you'll need that light kettlebell that you have handy. And the first thing we're gonna do is something called a Kang squat. So for our Kang squat, what we're going to do is bring the kettlebell in a goblet position here. Keep the elbows nice and tight, and we're going to start like a good morning. So our feet will be in our squat stance, just outside shoulder width. You're going to put a slight bend in the knee and hinge forward here. Now once you've hinged forward, keeping that kettlebell nice and tight, and you feel like you can't go any lower before you round your low back, you're then going to come down into a squat position here. Raise the hips back up, again feeling that tension in the hamstrings, keeping a nice flat back, then bring the hips through. That is 1 rep. So hinge forward, squat down, hips up, hips forward, there's 2. Hinge, keeping a nice flat back, squat down, hips up, feeling that tension in the hamstrings, chest up, there's 3. Hinging, feeling that tension in the hamstrings, nice flat back, squat it down, hips come up, hips come forward, there's number 4 one more time. Hinge in that good morning pattern, keep it a nice flat back, squat it down, bring the hips up, bring the hips through, and the chest nice and tall. We're now going straight into our goblet step back lunge. So from here, we're holding that same goblet position. What we're going to do is step straight back, so that back knee is under the hip, front knee is over the ankle. We tap the knee to the ground and come right back up. There's 1. We are doing 5 per side. There's 1. There's 2, keeping the chest nice and tall. There's 2, again making sure that front knee is over the ankle, back down under the hip. There's 3. There's 3. If this feels like too much for a warm-up, set the kettlebell down, that's totally fine. There's 4. There's 4, one more time. There's number 5. And number 5. Now, going straight into a halo variation. You've done halos with me a lot of times now. We're going to do a single leg halo variation. The modification would just be to keep both feet off the ground, but this is a nice increased challenge for the balance. So what we're going to do, with 1 foot up here, we're gonna bring the kettlebell up and around the head, and we're gonna do 3 reps in one direction. There's 1, make sure the upper thigh is parallel to the ground. There's 2, one more time. There is number 3. Now we're going to reverse it, go in the opposite direction. There's 1. Up and over the shoulder, behind the head, elbows up towards the sky, and over the shoulder. There's 2. One more time. Up and over the shoulder, elbows up towards the sky, behind the head, back over the shoulder. There's 3. Now we're gonna switch feet. Other leg comes up, thigh parallel to the ground, up and over the shoulder we go. Back behind the head, up and over. There's number 1. Pretty challenging on the balance. There is number 2. One more time this direction. There is number 3. Now we're reversing directions, coming over the opposite shoulder. There's number 1, elbows up towards the sky as that bell passes behind your head. Here comes number 2, up and over the shoulder, behind the head. Keep that rib cage pulled down. One more time, here comes number 3. Elbows up towards the sky, back and around. There is number 3. Now we're gonna do that same sequence one more time, starting with the Kang squats. If you're feeling warm, you should be. This is a tough warm-up. From here, for our Kang squats, you wanna be in that goblet position. Hold that kettlebell tight to the chest. Feet just outside shoulder width in our squat stance. Hinge first with a slight bend in the knee, keeping a flat back. Feel that tension in the hamstrings, come down into your squat. Hip crease below the knee, hips come back up. Feel the tension in the hamstrings with a flat back, hips come through. There's one. Hinge. Squat. Hips up with a nice flat back. Hips come through. There's two. Hinge. Squat. Hips come up, nice flat back. Hips come through. There's three. Hinge, keeping a nice flat back. Squat it down, hip crease below the knee. Hips come up. Hips come through. There's four. One more time. Hinge. Squat. Hips come up. Hips come through, chest comes up. There is number 5. Now from here, we're going straight into our goblet step back lunge. Again, back knee under the hip, front knee over the ankle. There's one. Stepping it back. There's number 1. There's number 2. Step it back. There's number 2. Keep the chest nice and tall. Back knee under the hip. There's number 3. Front knee over the ankle. There's number 3. Number 4. Stepping it back and through. Number 4. One more time. Number 5. And number 5. Now we're finishing up with that same single leg halo. Remember, if you feel like it's too much on the balance, keep both feet on the ground and just do your halos with us. That's totally fine. Otherwise, we're taking that kettlebell upside down here. I'm gonna bring it up and over the shoulder. Make sure that upper thigh parallel to the floor. Here we go, up and over the shoulder. Elbows up towards the sky. Back up and over we go. There's number 1. We're gonna do 3 here. Up and over the shoulder. Elbows up towards the sky, rib cage down. There's number 2. One more time. Up and around the head, elbows up towards the sky. There's number 3. Reverse directions. Up and over the shoulder. Elbows pointing up towards the sky. Back over, there's 1. You know the drill now. There's number 2. Keep that rib cage down. There is number 3. Now switching sides. Other foot comes down. Leg comes up parallel to the ground. Up and over the shoulder. Here we go. There is number 1. Make sure those elbows point straight up towards the sky as that bell gets behind your head here. Keep that rib cage pulled down so you're not flaring or arching the low back. There's number 2. Up and over. Bell comes back behind us and over the shoulder again. There's number 3. Reversing directions. Here we go. Up and over. There's number 1. Up and over again. Keep those elbows up towards the sky as the bell's behind your head. Rib cage down. There's number 2. One last time. There is number 3. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, we have completed another workout. You wrapped up this week. Strong work. Time to get after this workout. Have fun with it.